Hey, so today I'm excited to bring you a special episode where you're going to get to hear from one of my amazing stressless eating clients. Now, I've told you before that I am not here to persuade you or convince you or try to sell you on the fact that the diet mentality is the real problem here, and that the journey that I believe all women need to go on to create their freedom only comes when you take the time to heal your relationship with food and your body and yourself. So instead, I'm just going to let you hear it from women who have been where you are and have been locked inside their own food and body and shame prisons, and they've come out on the other side victorious. I'll let you hear it from them and see it through their eyes. And remember, this is a pretty big deal for these gals to share their journey because remember, this topic tends to carry around a lot of weight and a lot of shame. And in these case study interviews, they do not hold back. Like, they share the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. I'm talking their fears, their struggles, their skepticism, all of it. So without further ado, let's dive into today's episode. All right, we are recording. We are live. I'm here with my amazing client, Erin, and we get to just share her journey. So welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And we were just chatting a bit before we started recording. And then it was kind of one of those things where we were getting into the meat of it. So I was like, we need to record this. So just to kind of give everybody an idea, because these case studies that I do are everyone is so different. Everyone's coming from a different place. We were just talking about how the food isn't even the thing, but it's all the other stuff. And food is just one of the things that's showing up in our face and all that. But so for anybody who's listening, just kind of give us an idea of where you were before we met. What was your life like? What was your relationship with food like? What was your relationship with your body like? How were you living on a day-to-day basis? Just kind of share with us where you were so we can get a scope just a few months ago.
Sure. So I have a couple of sons, a 2.5-year-old and a 10-month-old, and I'm married, work full time. And I just kept feeling like, okay, once I get to the next level, then I'll get the food thing figured out. Once I get this, then I'll get that figured out. Once I get here, the next, and it never fell in alignment with me. And I never figured out my regiment that worked for me and resonated with me. It was always, okay, I'm going to go no carb. And then I'd get burnt out on that. I'm going to count calories and get burnt out on that. And I was just feeling uncomfortable in my own skin. I wasn't feeling like I was being present in my day-to-day. I was half present. I felt like a shell of who I really could be and wasn't living up to my full potential, even though I had gotten the education that I set out to get. I have this wonderful husband. I have 2 sons. I have this seemingly happy life, but I wasn't feeling that fulfillment. And I knew it was something I was missing within. And I needed to go on a journey to find that for myself.
Yeah.
That's how I found you.
I love it. Yeah. I'm so glad you did. When you said, hey, I figured hey, when the next thing happens or when I achieve this, then I'll fix that or then I'll address that. What was your relationship with food like? What was your relationship internally? You knew there was something that wasn't aligned, but what was that for you on a day-to-day basis?
I knew that I was abusing food and that I wasn't treating my body the way I should be, respecting my body. So when I say abuse food, I mean using it in celebration, using it to make myself feel better when I was having a bad day or anxious or sad or heck, any emotion, you fill in the blank, and I could find a reason to eat a cupcake because of it, or, eat too many chips. And then I would shame myself because, oh, Erin, you're not supposed to be having cupcakes this week. You're supposed to be no carb. And now you screwed it all up and you have to start over. Or I'd go the other way and say, you ate a cupcake, now punish yourself and do something completely exhausting and hurt the next day because you went overboard trying to get rid of that cupcake.
Yeah. So it's just this up, down, the on, the off, the restriction cycle, the deprivation, the diet mentality cycle, to the extreme of like, hey, like that almost not cure for abandonment, but like, screw it. Like I can't do this anymore. Like only enough, there's only a certain amount of willpower you can have to sustain that.
And then you would hit that weight that you were going for and completely, fall off of that wagon that everybody's on and off all the time. And I frankly just exhausted myself doing that. And I said, life is too short to live like this. There are so many other things out there that I want to experience and not be thinking about food.
Yeah. Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about that. Like energy wise, time wise, was this just on your mind all the time? Like obviously Constant. You have 2 very young children, a husband, a full-time job. Like, so where was your energy going towards a lot? Where were you mentally?
I was exhausted because I was trying to juggle everything and keep everything on an even keel while trying to fulfill something in me that I didn't know. I couldn't put my finger on it. And so I was constantly in the back of my head trying to balance and weigh what I had eaten and what I had left to eat for the day and so on and so forth. And it just got miserable.
Yeah.
It got exhausting beating myself up over it.
Yeah.
For nothing.
Yeah. And I know for you, it was one of those things like nobody really knew. Like if people met you, they'd think like, hey, Erin's got it all together. Like she's good. Like it was a thing that kind of like your secret.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that's what I was portraying. You never know, but I had this inner battle with myself about this is what you should look like. And you don't look like that. So how do we get you to look like that?
Yeah.
And I could never attain it. And I kept failing, which made me feel like more of a failure. And I thought, I'm just destined to be in this kind of fluffy body the rest of my life. And it's not in the cards for me to be healthy and feel good and be that, sort of athlete I was in high school,
Yeah.
I always wanted to get back there, but I didn't feel like I was deserving of it, I guess.
Yeah. And that comparison-itis to who you thought you used to look like or who you used to be. Yeah, absolutely. So for you, how has your life changed as a result of enrolling in the program?
Oh, gosh. Well, it's continuing to change. I think I'm continuing to evolve. I know that I have a lot less of that nervous pit in my stomach because I know that I'm living true to who I am and true to the values that I have. I was just saying I sleep like a baby at night because I know that I'm living each day with integrity. And that word right there has changed everything for me because I'm able to make decisions based on who I want to be, how I want to show up, who I want to represent myself to be, who I authentically am.
Yeah.
And I know that it's really strengthened the relationship that my husband and I have. I think that I'm able to be more candid with him. I'm not fearing rejection, which was never there. It was something that I created for myself. I don't fear anger, which was another thing that was never there that I created for myself. I mean, it's been awesome. I've been able to be more present with my kids as a result, which feels so good.
Yeah. And you touched on a couple really cool things. I think that, when it comes to having relationships with other people, like when we're clear on who we are and we're certain in who we are, we're able to be open with others and share our truths and be vulnerable because we don't feel as vulnerable ourselves because we've stepped into knowing who we are. We're not carrying around all that shame, all that self-resent, all that fear of anger, like all the fears, and you said it a couple times, like it wasn't real. It was the stories in your head. And once you got the tools to decipher, like, what am I creating in my consciousness versus what's actually happening, and how can I align to the reality and really respond to the reality, everything transforms, So I love that you brought that up. But also you talked about integrity, and you and I were talking about this before we press record, about how, most women, it's not about the food, right? Mm-hmm. Food is just something that we're using to either control and like compensate, or we're using to numb out and avoid. And, it's some sort of like coping mechanism, right? For where we don't feel in control, where we don't feel worthy, where we don't feel like we know who we are in a way, But I think for you've said, you and I in conversations, integrity was a big thing for you. And for those of you who are listening, like everyone goes through a process. I call it the inner compass. Some of my clients have renamed it to be their North Star or their mothership, whatever it is. But it's this element of like really getting in alignment with who you know yourself to be, but that we've gotten out of alignment. And that's the thing for a lot of women, is like we get out of alignment. We lose trust in ourselves. We lose respect for ourselves. We're so busy weighing and measuring our worth based on our weight or our jean size or our, how many calories we ate that day, that we don't even know what it looks like to measure and weigh ourselves by our own light and our own love and invite other people into that. So, the whole alignment thing that you're bringing up and the integrity thing, I think that's a big piece of the puzzle that a lot of women miss, because they're so focused on the weight. They're so focused on the food. But when you integrate the food conversation into that bigger picture, the integrity alignment conversation, everything falls back into place. So for you, it was kind of, this happens a lot with a lot of my clients, and you hear it coming on the calls as well. Like, you go through the first, what I call the foundations, which is all the self-imaging work. And then you get these frameworks around food. And it's almost like the food stuff just like clicks into place, because it's not like once you have all the other stuff, and then of course you need a better strategy and system of thinking around food. It's all that other stuff that sets the foundation for it. So for you, with how the integrity piece of the puzzle and getting aligned back with yourself and not feeding into the imaginary stories in your head and all that, how was that a big part of you, like being able to integrate all the food stuff or heal your relationship with food?
I think oh gosh.
Not to put you on the spot.
That's such a big question. I think that I had spent so much of my adult life kind of punishing myself for decisions that I had made when I didn't know any better, or, and once I realized, with your help, of course, that I didn't know what I didn't know. And now I get the chance to do better moving forward. And I've punished myself long enough. So now it's time to be kind to myself and respect myself, that it just kind of went, hey, body, thank you so much for caring for me when I didn't care for you. And now I can carry that torch and care for you by choosing the good food, quote unquote, good foods, and feed myself nutrition rather than crummy yuck food.
Yeah, absolutely. But you touched on something really important. I think a lot of women that I work with and a lot of women that are listening to this have stuff in their past that unconsciously or subconsciously it's robbing them of feeling like they deserve more. And it's not conscious. It wasn't for you either, right? And a lot of people think, that their struggles, that they have to go unpack old emotional wounds and go to therapy for years and really drag it out to address it. But it's like, no, as soon as you touch, you recognize like, hey, wait a minute, I think I'm holding myself almost like in double jeopardy for something in my past, and I want to just clear it out. And it was literally like, I remember our call, I was like, you want to just handle this crap right now? No, I said not crap, but like, you want to just deal with this right now? And you were like, yes, let's do it. And it was like 24 hours later, I got an email from you, or at the ticket in the help desk, another 24 hours later, because it's like light bulb, light bulb, light bulb. Because
Yep.
again, it's the reality and then the narrative that we make up in our head. And as soon as we have the tools to decipher the difference between the two, everything, comes together. And again, it's not about the food. The food was just another way of you thinking that you could control or compensate or the opposite, like I'm not worthy of more. And again, it wasn't conscious. We don't think consciously to ourselves like I'm not worthy of taking care of myself or having a healthy relationship with food.
If you would have asked me if I felt worthy, I would have said, heck yes, I do. Look at the life I have. I feel worthy. But deep down, I didn't feel like I was worthy. And I just learned that about myself all of these years later, because I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. I thought at some point, what I've built is going to fall out from underneath me because I don't deserve it. And that I was no way to live.
Yeah. I mean, I know I can relate to that. I know I had some of those narratives, and I'm sure a lot of people that are listening to this can relate to that too. We think like, wait a minute, this is too good to be true. Or like, again, waiting for the other shoe to drop. And that unconsciously and subconsciously sabotages us. And those are the kinds of things that, again, we don't realize are causing us to either reach for food or reach for the next diet. Like, oh, this is something I can control, because if the other shoe dropping is out of my control, this is the one thing I can grasp onto.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thanks for sharing that. And so for you, I mean, obviously you started to kind of unpeel this, but like, why was this different for you than any of the other programs you've done? Because like you said, you've done the diet run around, like, all things. Like, why was this different for you?
I think this was different because I handcrafted it. I mean, you laid it out there. You gave us kind of the roadmap on how to do it, but I got to choose things that really spoke to me, and I used my own language, and I got to be the master of my own craft. And now I have, the breadcrumbs that we talk about a lot to get me back to feeling how I feel right now when I veer off a little bit. And so that's comforting moving forward, knowing that I have all of the tools I need to sustain this.
Absolutely.
And it's not a regimented program that I have to wake up at 5 a.m. and do 30 minutes of cardio. And then I can only have a protein shake. And then I have to fast, or, I can only have water. No, this is all, how do you want to feel? And how can I create that for myself?
And sometimes that might entail like getting up at 5 and going for a walk or whatever it is, whatever we think we're supposed to do. But like, that is where it's your choice and you're choosing it. And it's day to day, it's moment by moment, because you don't know what you're going to need a week from now. You know what I mean? You might need a nap, not a cardio session, right? You might need a cheeseburger, not a salad. You know what I mean? But you don't know that when you're tuning out what you need in favor of what the like meal plan says,
Right.
And I think that's like, you touched on something really important. Like and I wouldn't have known this had I not had all my days in the fitness industry, but like, people used to come to me and be like, Leanne, like I need another 6-week challenge, or I need another meal plan. And it was like, it's almost, you become codependent on somebody else, and you want somebody else to be an expert in your body, an expert in your brain, an expert in your thoughts. And it's like, no, you have to, like, I wasn't the expert in your brain and your body and your nervous system. I had to teach you how to become it so that you weren't codependent on me. You know what I mean? And so that you could build the breadcrumbs. Because as you know, like we were just talking about this, like not every day is butterflies and roses. Because you just embark on this journey, you're going to have the ebbs and flows of life and like the curveballs and the external circumstances that come your way. But do you know how to deal with it when it comes? Like we were talking about this on today's call with my client, with the clients, is like, would you rather be lost in a desert, like without a compass or with a compass? And it's like, sometimes you're going to feel some of the feels that you felt, but like you have the tools, you have the breadcrumbs, and they're your breadcrumbs. I didn't give them to you. You created them. You have them. They're wash, rinse, repeatable. And now you're becoming, like you said, it's an evolution, the expert in your brain, your nervous system, your hunger, your relationship with food, all the things, your emotions, like you are now the expert in it. And I mean, I know from our conversations, like you never had that expertise before.
No, I just was kind of going through the motions. Whatever came at me, I would deal with it at that moment. And now I feel like I'm more intentional and more thoughtful about how I make decisions. I'm a heck of a lot less reactive. I don't know if my husband would say the same most times. I think he would, but I was very impatient and very right now. And now I think that I'm finding my patience and finding my flow, and it feels pretty awesome to be kind of in that groove.
Yeah. And even like things like that, like I'm being more patient, like, cause when you think about anybody, when we think about like when we lose our cool or when we're impatient with somebody, we snap at somebody, we react, whatever it is, the moments afterwards, it's like, oh, like, why did I do that? What's wrong with me? Like, and we have all this cognitive dissonance. We have this guilt. Maybe we move into shame. And those are the things that cause us to go like numb out or like open that bag of potato chips or all that. So when you get really aware and you start to avoid all like really stop from happening, like not create those things, you get to the cause and effect of it rather than just like putting fires out all the time. That's when you get, and it comes back to what you were saying, like the integrity, the alignment piece of the puzzle. When you like snap at somebody and when you're feisty with somebody, it's like we're out of alignment with who we know ourselves to be, and so these are the things, again, like you can't out diet this stuff. Right. It's not a food conversation. It's upstream. I love it. Yeah. So for you, why was this more successful than the things that you've done in the past?
I found integrity, plain and simple. This was different because it was mine. I got to have ownership of it. I got to sit down with my own thoughts on my own time. I mean, we have sort of a timeline, you set things in a certain order, but then we're kind of responsible for moving through it at our own pace. There was no pressure. There was no comparing myself to anyone else. You've crafted the program brilliantly. And I mean, we don't, I just felt like I could be Erin in this program. I didn't have to be Erin the mom. I didn't have to be Erin the dosimetrist. I didn't have to be any other label besides me. Yeah. And I didn't have to run a mile, with 14 other people and come in dead last and then go, oh, this isn't going to work. I got to find what worked for me. And I've never done that for myself. And it seems so simple, but it's great.
Everything. It's everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so individualized to you. And that's why I like, I can't show you how to ride a bike or like be the balance for you. Like I can tell you the concepts of how to, balance on a bike, but like balance is something you have to experience, And so your version, and like, I'm talking to you and I'm talking to anybody who's listening to this, like your version of health, I can't tell you what it is. I'll know it when, like, if you found it, we'll both know it. You know what I mean? But I can't give it to you. I can't tell you what it is. We've got to find it. We've got to experientially find it. And it can't be somebody else's version of it. It's got to be the Erin version and, cater to you. And again, like getting rid of those voices of comparisonitis and weighing and measuring ourselves according to what we think other people are doing. It's just like, that doesn't exist in this context, Yeah.
Yeah. And, I was skeptical to begin with because I had never finished something before.
Yeah.
So I was very nervous to give myself these 12 weeks. And I was nervous I wasn't going to see the end of 12 weeks. I was nervous I'd go gung ho for 6 weeks and then fizzle out. But just each week proving to myself and seeing that evolution in myself and the growth just gave me more fuel to keep going. And I came into this with the resolve that I was going to be open-minded and I was going to say yes to things that I wouldn't normally say yes to. So as a result, I've started reading more, which has been so great for my brain, just as a de-stressor in the evening. I've done some mindful training, which has been awesome. And the pre-Leanne Erin would have been like meditation. No, that's no. Right. But there was the right amount of science in this program that helped me justify all of the woo.
Yeah, I love it. I love that you said that, because I think so many people can resonate with that. Like, I personally resonate with that. When I heard the word meditation, I had like a preconceived notion of, the woo woo and the fluffy, frilly stuff. And that's why I needed to experience it on a scientific level. And so I jokingly call it science with a splash of woo, because like, that's what we need to. And that's why it's all about finding ways that resonate with you. Like, we need to figure out what's like, words matter. Like, what's the language that everybody, like everyone that I talk to knows, like nowadays it's pretty well known that meditation is pretty healthy or beneficial for your brain and all that, but not nobody, but like a lot of people have a block up because they're like, they think they're bad at it. They think like they don't know how. And it's like, okay, how can we get past the how and the things that are blocking you from getting the benefits from it, and make it work for you? And so even just, again, the baby steps and how it was positioned to you and meeting your brain where it was, it's like you needed some like meat on the bones. It couldn't be fluffy and frilly. And it's not a coincidence that most of my clients are like that too. But so again, it wasn't that you had a meditation problem. It's that it was your thoughts about it that were keeping you from integrating it. It's the same thing. Most people don't have a food problem, a body problem. It's our thoughts about food that are causing the problem. It's our thoughts about our body. Like you said, from the outside, you have this perfect, amazing life, but like, why were you not feeling fulfilled? It's your thoughts about it, your thoughts about yourself. And when you influence that, everything opens up for you. Even the things that, like you said, pre-Leanne, I would have never been a reader and meditating, but now look at you, because we met you where you are in your skepticism. I'm never like, hey, ignore the skepticism. I'm like, hey, let's take a look at what it is and let's just get past it. Let's work through it so that you can get whatever you need, So super cool. And I know I definitely felt that way a lot as well. And that's why I teach it the way I do. But so for you, and I know you started to say like, hey, I wasn't sure, like I had my fears, my skepticism about, being able to finish this. Why was it worth it for you to invest in something like this and really getting that long-term solution, like solution-based help that you needed, rather than going down the diet road or investing in weight loss again? Like, why was it worth it for you to really invest in your forever solution?
I think I had finally exhausted all of my attempts at doing it on my own. And I knew I needed some guidance. At the time, I didn't know exactly what kind of guidance that was. And so I'm a big believer in research. So I just started doing my research and kind of trying different things on and seeing what would fit for what I was after. And after the birth of my second son, I was like, okay, I know I'm done doing that. I'm not having any more babies. So let's nip this in the bud and live the rest of your life with some freedom and find out what unadulterated joy feels like. Find out how to have fun and not be the mom on the sideline saying, no, I don't want to get in the pool. No, I don't want to run through the sprinkler with you. I'm just going to sit over here and watch you go play. No, I want to play, dang it. Yeah. I want to play with my kids. I want to have fun. I want to coach their games. I don't want to be worrying about pulling on my shirt, pulling on my shorts because I feel uncomfortable. I just want to be in the moment. I wanted to figure out how to just be present and love and be present for my husband and supportive for my husband, and not be in the back of my head wondering what he thinks I look like in the shirt I'm wearing. He doesn't care. He loves me. My kids love me. And I wanted to give that all back to them tenfold.
Yeah. Oh, so powerful. Yeah. And it's just like, we've all been there where it's like, I want to get my skinny jeans fast or whatever words we're using. Like, I want to like get rid of my muffin top and lose a bunch of weight really quickly. And it's just a totally different mindset. And I know to some people, like to me 20 years ago, like this conversation wouldn't have been air quotes sexy. You know, I would have been like, give me the weight loss potion, magic pill or whatever. But it's one of those things where it's just a totally different intention. Like this time around, you were like, no, this is about me being present. And now like your children and your husband get that version of you. And you just shared with us, 20 minutes ago in this interview that like you were in your head 9 times out of 10,
Constantly.
like most of the hours of the day. And talk about being present, like the time and energy. Like a lot of people think like, oh, I don't have time to invest in myself. It's like, no, just redirect the time that you're spending obsessing, thinking about, like you said, pulling at your shirt. Do I look okay? Should I eat that? What's wrong with me? Whatever, fill in the blank for all of us. And it's like, just you now get to redirect that time and that energy and that focus into things like joy and pleasure that you also have the space to have in your life, like the ability, the capacity for joy and love and acceptance and integrity. You're looking for that. Like, I mean, I've said this to, I say this to you ladies all the time. I'm like, imagine if you were weighing and measuring X, and your X is integrity, one of the parts of your inner compass. But like, imagine if every single day, instead of weighing and measuring like how many calories I ate, like how many, what my jean size is, my scale weight, whatever, how am I moving towards integrity or am I moving away from that? Even if you just started measuring that, like giving yourself that new currency, but obviously it's your definition of that. It's a game changer because you're now refocusing everything. And that in turn leads you to eat differently and make different decisions. And it's like, don't focus on what you're eating. Change your thoughts about food. Don't focus on your body. Change your thoughts about your body, and the actions will transform.
Yeah.
And it's forever, so I'm happy for your whole family, and you all get this version of you now,
Yeah.
So what would you say to any woman? Because I mean, you've been there. Like, I'm sure it is tempting to just say, hey, let me go down the weight loss road again. But like, what would you say to any woman who's on the fence thinking about, because there's a lot of women that are like, hey, I'll just lose the weight and then I'll deal with this emotional stuff. Like, what would you say to any woman who's on that fence right now, thinking about feeding into that diet mentality more and avoiding, really healing this?
I think I would say jump with both feet, tear the Band-Aid off, just learn how it feels to love yourself, and learn how it feels to create the environment you want instead of relying on someone else, something else, food, materialistic things to give you that feeling. Learn what it feels like to create that feeling for yourself and sustain it moving forward. And your power is bigger than you'd ever imagine. And what you have to give to the people around you is so immense that you'll surprise yourself. And once you start getting a little bit more mindful with the commitments you're making, more mindful with the promises you're making, and shame goes out the window. This is something that I think everybody could use a healthy dose of. I can't speak to it enough how much it's changed how I feel internally, and I hope exude externally too.
Oh, so cool. So cool. And just a little like micro question off the back of that. You said like you had that fear, that skepticism, all that, which most people do because we witness ourselves time and time again, not finishing what we start, not trusting ourselves, not believing in ourselves. What would you say now to like alleviated that skepticism, or what do you think it was that shifted that for you, that showed you that it was possible? Because I know there's probably a lot of people that are listening to this that are like, in that same boat of like, hey, I've been like this my entire life. Or some women are like, I'm a hot mess, Leanne. Like I'm not even helpable. Like that kind of talk. You had your own version of that. Like, what would you say to those voices?
I think what worked for me is I heard this, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You know, working in minimums versus maximums it's something so stinking simple. It's like, why didn't I think of that? You know, why did it take me 38 years to realize that, hey, let's start small and build on it? That's been huge for me.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
You know, and you asked me in the beginning of this to give up control of logging my food, which about sent me into a downward spiral. I was like, I don't know if I can give up my fitness pal, and I don't know if I can do that. But I tell you, once I committed to doing that, it was like, oh man, I can relax and I can actually focus on the conversation I'm having rather than tallying up all of these macros and calories and blah, 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 blah.
Totally.
So minimums has been huge.
Yeah. And oh gosh, you're touching on so many important things that comes up all the time, because it's like the one thing we feel like we have a grasp of control over is counting, weighing, measuring, tracking, all that. But really, the more we try to control it, the less in control we feel. And what we're really looking for is certainty. And so, and I said this to you, I was like, hey, I am not asking you to give up. Right now, tracking and weighing and measuring is your form of certainty, even though it's not certain. But I'm not asking you to give up your form of certainty and without me replacing it with a new form of certainty. So I gave your brain a new form of certainty, but one with freedom in mind and peace of mind in mind, and you feeling like you have the ability to make choices rather than feeling like choices are constantly being taken away from you. So it's like not eliminating certainty, but just finding a new level of certainty. And you were just so coachable around that. But I think one of the big things that you just said too is like the whole, minimums, the reason we learn to work in minimums, and most women are 0 to 60. If it's not hard, I don't want to do it. It's not worth it. If I don't see rapid results, I don't want to do it. And I was like that too. So I get it. But the big part of that is not just the fact that you'll actually get there because you can sustain it, but it's also about little by little earning your own trust back. Witnessing yourself, being the version of yourself that's in integrity with the promises that you're making. And when we make these massive, radical promises that we can't possibly commit to, but we think it's better than doing nothing, or we think it's what we're supposed to commit to, every time we don't, we witness ourselves like not following through. We trust ourselves less and less. And then the next time we go to make a promise, we don't believe ourselves. We're like, yeah, right, that's not going to happen. Kind of like you were, right? Mm-hmm. So a big part of that is not only is the minimums the way to get your brain to actually do it forever, but because we're playing the forever game, but it's about earning your own trust back. And that's one of the reasons you chose integrity, because you're like, my relationship with myself and trusting myself and being my word and doing what I say and saying what I mean and all that, it was so critically important to you. And that's the part that got you out of alignment. And so when we bridge that gap, it's like, boom, fireworks of clarity bubbles and breakthroughs came through. And that was the big thing for you,
Yeah. I was making promises to myself that I knew I wasn't keeping or would not keep as I was making them to myself.
Yeah.
That feels horrible.
Totally.
I didn't realize it at the time because I was so disconnected from myself and so unaware of what I was doing and the impact that it was having. But now I'm very intentional about what promises, and I don't even really like to use the word promise because it feels so heavy. Yeah. I'm very intentional about how I set little goals for myself.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it really is a matter of like, do I trust myself, or do I totally like have I lost trust? Do I respect myself, or am I witnessing myself disrespect? Like, we don't realize it. We lose respect for ourselves when every time I make a promise and I know I'm not going to keep it, it's not conscious again, because nobody's taught us to look for this stuff, but like, we are losing respect for ourselves, and you've got to get that back.
Yeah. And I did not realize that's the impact it was having on myself at all.
Absolutely. Such a powerful conversation. Well, so grateful for you coming on here and sharing. Anything before we wrap up, anything else on your head or your heart that you just want to share with anybody who's listening that might need to hear what's on your heart or what you've been through?
I just have so much gratitude for you, the program that you've created, the ladies that I've went through this program with. They feel like my soul sisters. I just can't even put into words the depth of my gratitude for being able to go through this and from having the support of you and learning what it means to reach out for help and having the support of my family during it all too. It's been so incredible. And I'm so fortunate that I get to have this moving forward and I get to create a life of no regrets when I was living a life full of regret before this. So wow. I'm so incredibly thankful.
Thank you. And just to brag on you, I mean, you showed up and really just put your head, your heart, your soul, like everything into this, reaching out for help. And I know you spoke to a point too, a lot of women that are listening, myself included, this was like a big belief I had was like, if I ask for, like, I should be able to handle this on my own. Like it's a food thing. It's, I know what to do, but I can't get myself to do it. Like I should have more willpower, all these things. And it's like, no, we don't know what we don't know. And we can't see what we can't see. And it's one of those things like the disordered eating and the self-image and body image that comes alongside it and all of the beliefs that get entangled in there. Like you can't diet it away. You can't see what you can't see. Like it's like a cancer that has to get cut out. It doesn't go away on its own. It doesn't fix itself. And we do have to kind of humble ourselves and be like, hey, I need help. And so for you to even just humble yourself that much. And then on top of that, show up totally coachable, take on all of the beliefs that you took on. Like it really is just a product of you showing up and doing the work. It works when you work it. So I'm so grateful for you that you now have this and it gets to grow and evolve as you do. And thanks for just coming on here and giving voice to so many different things. Again, like this is it's a topic that doesn't get talked about a lot and a lot of women feel alone in it. And so thanks for just kind of giving words and speaking into what a lot of women here are thinking and experiencing. So we appreciate you being on here and sharing your truths.
Thanks, Leanne.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here, ladies. We will be back for another case study very soon. And I will talk to y'all next time. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to today's show. If you like what you heard and you're interested in breaking out of your own food, body, and diet prison, here's what I want you to do next. Head on over to stresslesseating.com. That's stresslesseating.com and sign up to watch the Stressless Eating webinar, where I'll walk you through the exact 5-step game plan my female clients use to conquer emotional eating, self-sabotage, and finally heal themselves from the restrictive all-or-nothing diet mentality for good, but without obsessing or spending years in therapy to address it. I've laid it all out for you there in 5 easy steps. Remember, healing your relationship with food and your body does not happen by itself. You need expert guidance to make it happen, and we've helped clients all over the world take back their power from the food and find true and lasting freedom while enjoying life and warm chocolate chip cookies along the way. To see if we can help you do the same, head on over to stresslesseating.com. I'm Leanne Ellington, and I'll see you next time.